Welcome in, Iowa Hawkeye football fans, to another season here in Iowa City. Good old Kinnick Stadium's going to be rocking here in a couple of weeks. First episode of the new season here. Joining me is Joey Myers and Austin Myers. I'm only related to Joey. Austin, no relation at all. So we'll jump right into it here. We have a good interview coming up with Tyler Kluver, the long snapper for the Hawks over the last couple of seasons. He graduated last season. Had a good interview there, but the first question is, boys, from last season, what's the biggest loss from the team?
Biggest individual loss, hands down, Josh Jackson. 2017 consensus All-American. He led the nation and the Big Ten in interceptions. And I know we lost more at other positions, but I think from individual player standpoint, I think Josh Jackson is the one place that we lost the most.
I don't think you could say hands down he's the one missing the most.
I think you could argue that.
You certainly could. I mean, anytime you lose an All-American at your defensive back position, that's a tough one.
And he almost single-handedly vaulted us to a win against Ohio State with the 3 interceptions.
Well,
without those interceptions, we did not win that game.
And I mean, you can't. Oh, we probably win that game, but
no.
That was an all-around dominating performance. I'm not saying that his 3 interceptions didn't help us win, because they obviously
certainly
did. But we steamrolled that entire game from the first kickoff until the final whistle.
That's 3 possessions he gave us, though, with those interceptions.
His last interception, though, was late in the game, and it was basically game was over at that point. We were up by at least 24. But I mean, still, you can't knock him. Greatly appreciated, and can't blame him for going to the NFL.
They weren't easy interceptions either.
Well,
they were not easy interceptions.
They weren't. But J.T. Barrett looked like Uncle Rico out there throwing balls around. He was pretty much hot garbage that entire day. Austin, what are you thinking?
Josh Jackson was great. One of the best that Iowa's ever had at cornerback, but it seems like every year Iowa keeps producing another great cornerback. Story coming into last year is, well, we don't have Desmond King anymore. Who's going to be the corner that steps up? And then Josh Jackson does his role, and I'm sure that the people that are filling his place this year are also going to be taking care of that. Iowa seems to be building a tradition of producing NFL-ready cornerbacks. I think that our biggest loss from last season has to be the linebacking core as a group in general, but more specifically the loss of Josie Jewell. He was the heart and soul of that defense, the signal caller, the enforcer, whatever you want to call him. He was that defense. He epitomized everything that it meant to be Iowa: hardworking, genuine, tough-nosed. So I think his leadership role is really going to be difficult to replace.
Yeah, you look at our defense this season and you see our defensive line they're going to be goddamn studs out there. They're going to be so good. You got the Nelson boys, you got Epi coming up behind Parker Hesse. I mean, we just got animals up on the front line. But our defensive backs, we got some young guys coming in, but they're pretty good recruits, so I'm not too worried at that either. But our linebacking core, there's a chance we could get picked apart in the middle of the field by just a bunch of slant routes and stuff running up the middle. I mean, our linebackers are going to have to be good in coverage, and it's certainly going to be a learning curve. And I'm not saying our non-conference is easy, but we got a couple of games to figure it out right there. That Iowa State game will be tough, but UNI and Northern Illinois should be just learning experiences for the Hawks where they don't have to worry about the game too much. Not saying they're going to win for sure, because I've seen them lose some stinkers, but yeah.
Underrated one that we lost, shouldn't be underrated, was James Daniels. Kirk Ferentz is on the record saying that he's one of the best all-around prospects that he's ever coached.
Well, yeah, and you see that I've heard that the Bears, he might be their starting center this year.
Yeah.
So losing a starting center to the NFL, I mean, that's always going to be a big blow.
Yeah, I suppose the reason that James Daniels his name won't pop out to most fans' minds immediately is because it's an offensive lineman. And one thing that we know to be true as Iowa fans is that we will always have a good offensive line presence. So when one great does go to the NFL, there's always another person ready to fill in their shoes. So it will be a big loss, but I think as far as a unit goes, the offensive line has always been the best place to fill in that role without seeing a drop-off.
Yeah, and then Josie Jewell is obviously going to be a huge loss, but I'd like to give Bo Bauer and Ben Neiman a shout-out here, because those boys started for a couple years also when they were big parts. They played pretty good defense. You can't maybe a play here or there where they struggled, but those two were just as valuable as Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell, obviously, you can't just. He's so much more skilled and athletic than they were, but they did a great job defending the middle of the field over the last couple of years. Just those three linebackers last season alone had 299 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. And I'm not 100% sure the linebacking core we put out there this year will be able to put up those numbers.
That was probably a top 3 all-time Iowa linebacking core that you're trying to replace. So expecting 3 new non-starters to come in and try and fill that role it's just absurd to expect that type of performance out of them this season. But we still expect them to play good, and I'm sure they will. Coach Ferentz is always good about developing players, and I'm sure whoever he puts out there will do the job just fine.
It's also nice to see it's just 1 week into the NFL preseason, but we already have high praise from Von Miller, of all people, for Josie Jewell, and new nickname, Redbeard.
Redbeard, of
and
course.
Neiman making plays on the goal line for, who was it, Kansas City?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool to see.
Late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a preseason game, but still.
Still NFL play, though.
Yeah, we're only 1 week into the preseason, but it felt like a lot of Hawkeyes made their impact known, like a lot more than usually do, especially from rookies. I mean, it was kind of nuts to see. Josh Jackson got the start for the Packers and played a lot of time there. Akram Wadley had a couple of big plays, especially the kick return late, but yeah, it was just great to see all the Hawks out there kicking ass.
You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Iowa may not produce the most NFL talent out of any college football program out there, but you can be assured that every player that they send to the NFL is going to be a solid player, whichever team they end up with.
Well, Kirk Ferentz doesn't raise. He raised those boys right. He knows how to get them to the NFL, and they do a great job when they're there. All right, moving on. I love having this argument. I had it a couple times this offseason. Who is the greatest Iowa quarterback in the history of the program?
That is a question that I've been torn on. I'm still not solid in any camp. The first name that I want to say is Drew Tate, and that's solely based on the fact that he has my favorite play in Iowa football history, Tate to Holloway. A great call by Gary Dolphin on the radio.
Of course.
A great play altogether. So that sticks out immediately. But then, looking specifically at statistics, you almost have to go with Chuck Long. I mean, he's the career leader in passing yards, passing touchdowns, single season passing touchdowns. I mean, and then he's top 4 in every other category that there is. So I think that I have to go with Chuck Long, especially because he led the great Iowa teams of the mid-'80s.
I wrote down a bunch of stats from single seasons by quarterbacks, Iowa quarterbacks, and it's got to be Ricky Stanzi. I mean, he's in the top 3 for quarterback rating, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, and interceptions in that one season. I mean, 3,004 yards one season, 25 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. I mean, that's one behind the all-time touchdown mark for Iowa. And non-stat wise, he had 3 bowl wins and helped win the first BCS bowl game. And if he didn't get rolled up by those cheating bastards from Northwestern, we beat Northwestern, we go to Ohio State, pretty good chance we win the Big Ten right there. And then we'd be number 2, number 1 in the country. We'd be going to the national championship game.
Yeah. Kirk, if you're listening to this podcast, wherever you may be, please, for all that is holy, never run the naked bootleg ever again.
Yeah, that's a great call right there by Austin. All right, Joey.
Well, first of all, I appreciate everything that Ricky Stanzi did for our program. It was very fun to watch when he was on the team. But he was not even a top 7 player on his own team. Look at the team that he had around him. He had Tony Moiaki.
Joey, we've talked
He had
about
Marvin McNutt. He had DJK, Sean Green. Look at those weapons he had compared to any of these other guys.
Just to lay this out here for you guys listening right now, I believe there was 15 NFL players on that team.
Unreal. That team, his teams were loaded.
And DJK wasn't one of them. But it's all right, continue.
Adrian Claiborne, Pat Angerer.
Get to your point.
It's just C.J. Beathard is my favorite Iowa quarterback of all time. I'm not saying he's the best one. And maybe it's just because after we had Drew Tate and then Ricky Stanzi pretty much right next to each other, there was like a 4-year stretch of just putrid quarterback play from Iowa. And it was just refreshing to see somebody that could throw it. Like, I don't know. I just think C.J. Beathard is the funnest Iowa quarterback to watch.
Let me throw you out C.J. Beathard's best season as a Hawkeye.
Okay.
All right, you ready for it? His rating was, let me see here. Of Ricky Stanzi, Brad Banks, Chuck Long, Drew Tate, C.J. Beathard, Chuck Hartlieb, and Nathan Stanley, Beathard was the third lowest one at 139.5. His completion percentage was the third lowest at 61.6%. His yardage in that season, 2,809, third lowest comparing the standards of those quarterbacks' best seasons ever. He was actually second lowest in touchdowns with 17, and he had the most interceptions of any of, or least. I'll go. All right, I screwed that up. He had the least amount of interceptions for any quarterback in their season. But still, I mean, those numbers you can't.
12-0, Rose Bowl.
Cakewalk 2015 season.
Hey, it's not easy to win 12 games.
Also, we went into Wisconsin and beat Wisconsin, which is not
Do
something
you remember what the score of that game was?
10
It's a
6.
grinded out game.
10-6.
Doesn't matter if
And
you
we
win
got
by an
bailed
inch
out.
or by a mile.
We
A
got
win is a
bailed
win.
out by our defense that game. We got bailed out by defense.
Did Ricky Stanzi never get bailed out by his defense? Or his special teams? I recall a blocked punt by one Adrian Claiborne.
Ooh, that was a great play. Can
I
you
recall
do that
two
in
blocks.
Happy Valley,
I recall
pouring down rain.
a couple of blocked field goals.
Well,
Against one UNI team.
nobody played well that game.
I'm just saying.
All right.
Everyone gets bailed out. And Ricky did win a lot. But from a talent standpoint, I don't know how you can choose him over C.J. Beathard. Arm strength, elusiveness.
I would like to argue Ricky
Athleticism.
Stanzi does have an undefeated season. 2009.
In the games that he played.
Yes,
In the
he
games
was
that he-
9-0. Didn't play for the Northwestern or Ohio State games, and won the Minnesota he didn't play for the Minnesota game, but he played in the Orange Bowl that season.
Didn't play the Ohio State game. Would have lost.
Bullshit. You are high.
Oh my God.
God, that is so wrong.
Does it speak something more to CJ, though, that we knew that he played almost that entire 2015 season injured? I mean, he had a sports hernia surgery once the season was over, but he played through it. And this is not a knock on Ricky Stanzi in the slightest. I'm not a medical professional. I don't pretend to be one. He went down with an ankle injury, and that cost the team a game. I'm not blaming it on him. But having CJ to be able to play through his injuries and propel that team to that undefeated season, you can't take that away from him.
I don't know. I'm sticking with my boy.
I think
Ricky.
when it's all said and done, Nathan Stanley could be in the conversation.
Oh, Nathan Stanley. He's going to be the number one.
Nathan Stanley is a star in the making, and I believe this got released today or yesterday, but in Todd McShay's early draft,
Oh, yeah.
he has Nathan Stanley as going 26th overall in the first round. He's only the second quarterback on the list, or second junior quarterback. So we already have NFL hype surrounding our guy before the season's even started.
And this is how good this kid is, because I've been a Nathan Stanley fan since I said last summer he was going to be the starting quarterback. He did, and he was a stud. But Colin Cowherd is saying this guy,
notorious Iowa hater, Colin Cowherd.
He said that Nathan Stanley could be one of the best quarterback in the nation.
Yeah.
No beating around the bush. That's what he said.
It could also just be Cowherd kissing Iowa's fans' asses because he knows that we could be good this year, and he's just not going to want to say anything good about us this season, too.
Oh, don't worry.
Just saying.
Once November rolls around, he'll start chirping about the schedule. So
Fake idea of college football.
No, he took that away from us last year.
Yeah,
Remember, he assigned it to Wisconsin of all teams.
yeah. All right.
We're not the underage kids at the bar anymore.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get to our Tyler Kluver interview here. So you're going to want to listen to that. Great interview with him. Great talk. Keep it tuned here. We'll have some more conversations about the schedule coming up next. Keep it tuned. Welcome into the Hawkeye Tailgate Report. I'm Luke Myers, and joining me now is long snapper for the Hawks over the last couple of years, Tyler Kluver. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So how's life after college been treating you?
It's been really, really good. I put on a lot of weight at the end of the spring when I was training for the NFL. I've gotten to take that weight off now after not getting a call and kind of closing down my football career. And so I'm feeling a lot healthier right now and moved to Des Moines. Feel really good about where I'm at, living with my fiance and loving life right now, honestly.
All right. So you were at the Hawkeyes camp today, right?
Yeah, yep. I was at their practice today.
What were you helping with out there?
Yeah, I don't know how much help I gave, but I tried to give a little bit of insight just on, stuff that I picked up over my 4 years and helping the current guys, mainly the specialists. The field goals and the punts, just kind of giving little details of what I see here and there and just getting a feel of how they're doing, halfway through camp basically. And, and I'm just excited to watch them this fall. It's going to be fun.
All right. Now, there was a play last year that kind of put your name on the map out there. It was the fake punt.
Yeah.
Did your guts kind of drop when you saw Coach called that one in, or what was happening?
Yeah, I actually we had practiced that play for the weeks previous, and we weren't really planning on using it for that game for Ohio State. And I'm really glad we did. It was an awesome opportunity. It was just kind of a quick decision. We ran out on the field. I still was thinking that we were gonna kick a field goal, and then one of the linemen turned to me and said, "Hey, we're running polecat," and I was like, "All right, we'll do that then." And then what transpired, and here we are today, and now I'm the polecat. So it was fun. It was fun for sure.
So a couple years ago in an NFL game, I think the Colts set up in a similar formation, and it just went horribly wrong. Yeah. Was there any doubt in your mind?
A little bit. We'd practiced it pretty well and kind of figured out how they were going to line up to it. So we kind of had a fail-safe for it if it didn't work. But it turned out well, and I'm just happy it did. Yeah.
All right. So why couldn't you get it into the end zone then? Just trip over your own feet, or just excitement of getting it?
Yeah, it was probably a little bit of both. The one thing that did happen was they brought a guy right at Colton Rastetter who threw it, and it kind of startled him a little bit. And so he had to get it off pretty quick, and in the process of doing that, he didn't quite get it out in front of me, so I had to turn around, and my body got twisted up. So then my legs got tangled, and I'm sure part of that was me being just nervous to catch the ball and just make sure that we completed it. So, it's frustrating, sometimes when I think about it, but also it could have been a lot worse. I could have dropped it. We could have never run the play at all. So I'm just lucky that I was able to be a part of that situation.
If I were you, I'd say, that was just me being a good teammate, because Nate Stanley comes out on the very next play, gets wrapped around, and throws a bolt to Hawkinson in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, it was a really cool play to follow. I remember going out onto the field to snap the PAT afterwards after that touchdown, and I was still just juiced on the adrenaline of the polecat play. That whole game, it was just kind of a whirlwind, I think is a good way to describe it for everybody that witnessed it and was a part of it. I think Nate should probably thank me for giving him another touchdown, him and Hawkinson both.
Well, tied the school record for most touchdowns in a season. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's partly you right there.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he's an incredible quarterback, so of course he has to go and make that play. But, it was fun to watch him and the whole offense that game. It was a great experience.
That was the best atmosphere you'd ever played in, right?
Yeah, that was pretty close. It's probably up there in debate with the Michigan State Big Ten Championship in 2015, and then maybe the Rose Bowl to start, but then after the game kind of began, then probably not so much. So those two games are both up there.
After that opening kickoff in the Rose Bowl,
it kind of went downhill after that.
So is there one game in specific, like you mentioned a couple right there, but what's your favorite during your time at Iowa?
I think this one, people ask me this a lot, and I think this one is kind of different from a lot of people's. In the 2015 season where we went undefeated, The biggest, like, my favorite game was the Wisconsin game where we won 10-6 up at Wisconsin. Came down to the wire. We got a fumble forced as they were going in at the end of the game. I don't know if it's just because of the opponent and we hadn't won versus them in a long time, or if it was because that was what kind of jump-started us for the rest of that year. But that game sticks out as just one of the games that I was super pleased with, and I probably consider that my favorite. The Michigan, when Keith Duncan kicked the last-second field goal, Ohio State, and the Big Ten Championship are all some of my favorites, though, yeah.
Yeah. But, all right. So, you're pretty big on Twitter. I follow you, a couple different pages I run, and you're pretty good. You have some pretty funny stuff out there. Yeah. So, I got a couple here for you. Okay. Right. This one's from July 29th. It's, woke myself up today by literally hitting myself in the face with both hands. Was snapping in my dream, and I botched it. And I evidently was actually using my arms in sleep. Is that actually?
Yeah, that was exactly what happened. I was dreaming of, I guess, playing at football again, and I was long snapping in my dream, and I just remember, like, literally in my dream feeling my arms, like, moving, and then the next thing I know, I must have been sleeping with my hands above my head, and they, like, came down and, like, hit me in the face, and I woke up and I was like, that really just happened. I just hit myself in the face from long snapping in my dream. I just thought that was an interesting one. Kind of a unique experience that most people probably don't experience.
Real football guy.
Yeah.
Real football guy. Another one I have here, it's happy birth to Miguel Recinos, my favorite Hawkeye football player. If I had to choose between having the ball in Jordan's hands or Miguel's foot, I'd still choose Jordan, but Miguel is a close second.
Yeah, Miguel's one of my good buddies. He, when he came in 2014, a year after I did, we had an interesting relationship where it was really just all business and football for a year or so, and then we kind of became friends after that, off the field, and ever since, for the last 2 or 3 years, he was probably one of my closer buddies while I was here at Iowa. And to reference the tweet, I was just being funny, but he really is. I would trust the ball on Miguel's foot any day. I saw him kick today. He looked good today. I'm excited to see what he can do this year, and I really hope that he gets a shot in the NFL because he, more than anyone, has worked so hard to just be self-made and really become like an expert in his craft. And I'm proud of him as a teammate and a friend, and I can't wait to watch him finish his career at Iowa and then hopefully get a chance at the next level.
All right. Now, over the last handful of years, there have been several Iowa games that special teams has won. How come they don't get enough credit? I mean, you look at Keith Big Nuts Duncan versus Michigan. You got Daniel Murray in 2008 Penn State. You got Marshall Kane in 2015. Yep. But I one of the most underappreciated special teams performances I can remember is Ron Caluzzi versus Michigan in 2017. Yeah. He's very or 2016, I guess it was, because that was a very low-scoring game, and he had some plays where he just booted some of the best balls I've seen from an Iowa punter in a while and really reversed field position.
Yeah, we had a huge one in that game where he put it down and it kind of bounced sideways, and we downed him down on the 1, which led to Jaleel Johnson's sack, which kind of got us going that game. Ron and all those other guys, Iowa special teams, in fact, actually, one of the things in the program that we pride ourselves on are the strength conditioning and the special teams. And that's how Coach Doyle would always preach to us how when Coach Ferentz came here in '99, that's what he wanted to build his team on and be known for. And so I think that maybe the special teams are underappreciated just because the culture of Iowa and the fans are so used to the special teams being good that when stuff like that happens, it's just another Iowa special teams play that made the difference in a game. So I'm very fortunate to be a part of that kind of legacy of Iowa special teams, and I was very lucky to be a part of kicks like Keith's and Marshall's and the polecat and everything that we did over the course of my time. I think specialists are used to not getting the credit, and so we see it. Even though they don't have Twitter when they're on the team, they read Twitter and they read articles that are put out about the special teams, and they know they're appreciated, and we love all the support that we get from Iowa fans when they're talking about special teams.
All right, now I have 3 things. It's for the upcoming season. I want you to say a percentage you think it happens, all right?
Okay.
We'll start. Okay, so I've been saying since middle of last year, Miguel Racino's one of the best kickers come through Iowa.
Absolutely.
I think there's a chance he could win the National Kicker of the Year. What do you think percentage-wise there?
I agree with you. I think he's one of the best in the nation. Unfortunately, that comes down to a lot of, like, will he get the opportunities and just have that many field goals to put on his resume? I think if Miguel Racino's has 20-plus field goals this year, there's a 25% chance he wins best kicker in the nation.
All right. Next one I got for you. Nathan, we actually ran this on our Twitter page the other day. It was a poll. Nathan Stanley, what percentage do you think he gets? He's a Heisman semifinalist. Very high on Nathan Stanley.
Yeah, I love Nate too. He's I think he's going to make a lot of money playing football. I'm just a long snapper, former long snapper, but I got to see quite a good amount of players come through here in my 5 years. Nate being a semifinalist for the Heisman, I'll give it. Again, this is so tough because there's literally so many people out there. I would give it, if he has the year that he's potentially could have, I'll give it a 40% chance.
That's a pretty high percentage. I like it.
I'm high on Nate Stanley too. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation.
Yeah, one of my brothers last year before the season started, I was like, Nate Stanley reminds me a lot of Ricky Stanzi, and I'm like really excited to see him play. And he was kind of down on him for the first couple games because he had trouble with the long ball, but but by the end of the season, I have him on video saying Nate Stanley for Heisman.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
He's definitely been turned. And the last one I have for you, percentage that Iowa makes it to Indy and wins the Big Ten title this year.
Percentage that they make it to Indy and win the Big Ten title. I'll go with 25% on that one as well, because the way I see it is it's between them and Wisconsin in the West, as long as they play like they potentially can. Every season it's so hard to beat anyone, and every team can beat every team. But I think if they play like they can, it's going to be between them and Wisconsin, or it should be, at least in my eyes. And then if they make it to the Big Ten championship, it'll be 50-50 there. So 25% on that one.
All right. Yeah. Last question. Record for him this year.
9-3.
9-3.
Yep.
I can respect that.
Yep.
I can respect that. But hey, that's all I have for you, Tyler.
Perfect.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Tyler Kluver for coming on. That was a great, very fun interview with him. Actually, he showed a lot of personality I didn't know he had, and it was just nice to see.
Yeah, you just love to see that.
You just love to see it. All right, so now we're going to take a look ahead to this upcoming season. And Joey, tell us what you think, pal.
I think we are going to be very good this year. I'll read through the schedule and tell you what I think.
Thank you,
Northern
sir.
Illinois, easy win. Iowa State, a lot easier of a win than people think. Iowa State gets way too much credit for being good, in my opinion. That's not just a hater in me either. Northern Iowa, easy win. Wisconsin, tough one. This could be a loss or a win. I'd say it's a toss-up at this point, but I like our odds. Minnesota, easy win. Indiana, easy win. Maryland, easy win, especially with what they got going on now. Penn State, another tough one. Potential loss. But I think that Trace McSorley is grossly overrated. His Heisman chances are high. He didn't show me much last year when we played. Should have beat them. Anyway. Purdue, win. Northwestern, win. Illinois, win. Nebraska doesn't stand a chance, like usual. Okay, so, all that being said, I see one loss on the schedule. 11-1. Wisconsin or Penn State. Let's see. It is going to be Wisconsin, just because Penn State is overrated. They lost Barkley. McSorley sucks. He's a D-bag. So that's where I'm at right now on that 11-1.
Let me see your phone, because you're not giving some of these teams enough credit. Iowa State, one of the toughest games I can remember last season. Like in the history of watching, that was one of the best games that I did not see coming, and I was genuinely worried that we were going to lose that. And
I personally don't remember.
Yeah, same. One of the best games that I didn't see. Little bit too much of the pregame action going on with that one.
All right. And then Wisconsin's a tough one. You forget about Indiana a couple years ago when they played like Ohio State, Michigan State, back-to-back-to-back weeks, and they literally almost beat every single one of those teams. And they played us that season. And it was kind of a close game until late, so you can't sleep on Indiana.
Was that the game where greatest Iowa quarterback of all time, C.J. Beathard, had that sick jump into the end zone?
It was also the game where George Kittle had a sick jump into the end zone.
Love me some George Kittle.
Love some George.
I tell you what, Indiana always does have a good offense.
Yeah.
Their defense, questionable, but their offense these last couple of years has been legit.
They're kind of tough to play at home.
Nice helmets, too.
Yeah, that's
Shiny red.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then, Maryland win. That Penn State game, I think we'll win. I think Iowa should win easy because I don't think Penn State's that good. You take away Barkley. But you said McSorley didn't have a good game against Iowa last year. I think you said he had 296 yards, which people are probably like, holy cow, but I'm pretty sure 200 of those were to Barkley on swing passes.
I believe those were 5-yard screens, and then Barkley just started breaking ankles all over the field.
Yeah, okay.
And Josie just absolutely disgraced him with the old celebration.
Yeah, he did the home run in front of him. Classic.
We like that.
Nice.
Yeah, all right. Then we got Purdue, and I believe they had 7 wins last year in their first bowl appearance in a long time under first-year coach, I think is what they had, and I can't think of his name off the top of my... Yes, there we go.
Stud.
Jeff Brown? Yeah, Jeff Brown.
Remember he got knocked out?
I remember that.
Classic.
But they're a good team. I mean, and then technically speaking, that's Iowa's rivalry game, which is complete crap. Yeah, that's like what the Big Ten has assigned us a couple years ago.
You kidding me?
You didn't know that? Yeah, which crap. But
That's obscene.
Also a nice alternate helmet. Shiny gold.
yeah, yeah. All right, then we got Northwestern, tough one. Could be ranked at that point in the season. Other than Wisconsin and Iowa, Northwestern's probably a little far behind us for the third spot in the Big Ten. You got Illinois, hot garbage, and then Scott Frost can get lost because that didn't mean for that to rhyme. Nebraska's.
Pun intended.
There's no way you can turn that program around in one season. I mean, they're coming off of 2 pretty horrible seasons, and I just don't see it. And this might take this on record. Anything less than 10 wins for this Iowa team this season should be considered a huge disappointment. And I know, like, usually Iowa fans are like, 8-4, it's fine. But, like, this with the schedule we have and the returning offense we have, I haven't even gotten to our returning starters. So, obviously, we lost linebacking core, but we keep all of our wide receivers besides Vandenberg. Both tight ends are back, who are absolute studs. Best kicker in the nation, you heard it here first. And a great front four on the defensive line. And a man by the name of Nathan Stanley, who we already kind of splooged about a little bit. But, 10-2, you could pick 2 losses from Iowa State, Wisconsin, and Penn State. I think it's probably Wisconsin and Iowa State. Unfortunately, that's 2 home games. But I don't know, 10-2 bowl win.
You think we'd lose to Iowa State at home and beat Penn State in Happy Valley?
Yes.
One of the biggest, loudest stadiums in the nation?
Yes, because it's an in-state rivalry, and you know Iowa State fans are going to show up for that game. It's not like it's going to be all Iowa fans all the way.
God, can I take you back to a couple years ago when we killed them here in Kinnick?
Yeah, you can, but that was a very bad team with a very bad coach. Paul Rhodes, was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then now they got a good coach, so you got to give him
Lazard.
credit.
Hey. Let's not count out the possibility that Campbell goes to Ohio State if Urban Meyer gets axed.
Well, not this late in the season. That won't
Axe
happen.
him.
They'll just put an interim term or title on somebody out there. But Iowa State has they have a very, very good running back in David Montgomery. But enough talking good about those
Well, I didn't.
bastards.
We don't talk about that team out west anymore.
All right, Stain, what do you got, buddy?
All right, so I just want to get it on the record again because I kind of forgot. What are your 2 official predictions for the record for Iowa's season?
10-2 with the bowl win, so 11-2.
Joseph Myers, 11-1 before bowl win, 12-1 after bowl win.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Rose.
Ah, all right. I'll take a Rose Bowl win.
Going back to Pasadena.
That'd be hot.
All right. I'm having a tough time figuring out what my official prediction for the season is. The more I look through the schedule, the more I talk myself into seeing that's for sure 10 wins. But then also, I look at how the schedule lines up, and I'm not sure that I love it a lot. We play our first 4 weeks at home, which is going to be great, but then we go on the road to Minnesota, on the road to Indiana, We're back at home for Maryland. That should be an absolute slaughterfest, especially with the state that program is in right now.
Yeah.
And then we go back on the road for 2 more at Penn State, at Purdue, and then we're at home against Northwestern, at Illinois, and then at home again against Nebraska. And I just think having to play consecutive games on the road more than one time in a season can be difficult. That being said, I have to see 10 wins in this season. I mean, Northern Illinois, that's going to be a win. Some people might be a little bit concerned because our 2 starting guards or tackles.
2 linemen.
Yeah, 2 of our starting linemen are suspended.
Tackles.
Tackles, all right. Are suspended for the first game of the season. But like I said earlier in the podcast, if there's one thing that we know about Iowa is that we'll always have good linemen. I'm sure whoever's second up is going to fill their shoes just fine, especially against a team like Northern Illinois. Iowa State
sucks.
Unlike my colleague Joey, I do believe that it's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be an offensively minded game because if we know anything about the Big 12, it's that it's a defense optional league. So it's going to be. I honestly think that we could probably have to score about 45 points to win that game again. But I do think that we take that one home. You and I, the only time that they've ever given us a scare is in 2009 when we had to block 2 consecutive field goals to win the game.
Still wasn't that worried.
Hold up. That game, David Johnson had 200 receiving yards. That was a tough game also.
Okay, but we won.
Yeah. I wasn't as worried.
We didn't have to block 2 field goals in a row, though.
No, we didn't.
Could have done 3.
All right, so Northern Illinois, not Northern Illinois, Northern Iowa, that's a win. And then we come up to my circled game on the season, clash of the top teams that I see in the Big Ten West, Iowa and Wisconsin. Basically, the way I see it, the winner of that game controls their own destiny to the Big Ten championship game. It's going to be a difficult game. Iowa, in recent years, outside of 2015, hasn't exactly fared the best against Wisconsin. Coming into the season, I think there's going to be a lot of momentum. Kinnick Stadium is going to be louder than ever now that the North End Zone renovation is underway. Going to be bouncing a lot more sound back down there. I think the crowd's going to be really invigorated for that game. I think Iowa's going to come out and really shock a lot of people. I believe that our offense, specifically, is going to be light years ahead of what it was when we played Wisconsin last year, which doesn't really take a whole lot, considering we had like 63 yards of total offense.
Josh Jackson was our best offense that game.
Yes, he was. But I believe everything that I've read and seen tells me that our receiving core is going to be light years ahead of where they were. And then when you have the dynamic duo at tight end, Fant and Hawkinson, I believe that with those 2 out on the field, if we have just average receiver play, they're going to take up too much attention for our receivers not to be open. So, going to be a tough game. We beat Wisconsin this year. Take that to the bank. After that, I don't know. I don't want to say it because I hate Minnesota a lot, but I can see that being a trap game. It's our first road game of the season. It's going to be coming after a huge game at home against Wisconsin.
But Floyd, baby. Floyd.
Always smelling the bacon, but I can see that as being a potential loss on the season. Don't want to say it. Hate to say it. I just coming after being the first road game and then immediately following the Wisconsin game, I can see how that'd be a trap game. And then 2 games in a row, easy after that. Win at Indiana. Gonna just absolutely steamroll Maryland at home. If we don't, that'll be an embarrassment. And then the second circled game of the season at Penn State. They lost Saquon Barkley. Let's be honest. He was that entire team's offensive scheme last season. You put him out. Special teams, he returned kicks. Out of the backfield, he ran for 1 million yards a game. Then all you do is throw screen passes to him all game, and he just broke people's ankles. With him gone, I think their offense takes a huge hit. I'm with Joey. I don't think McSorley is that great of a quarterback, especially now that he doesn't have his safety dump off to Barkley. That padded the stats for him big time last year. So I'm smelling some repeat memories at Happy Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna bring home that big W there.
All right.
Also, little insider information: the podcast thinking about taking a road trip out there, so you should let us know what your thoughts are on that. Tell us if you want to see the tailgate report in Happy Valley.
Also, may or may not be going to Minnesota again.
Making a couple trips this season. But, all right, Stan, can we get a record from you here?
Okay. I think I'm thinking with you here, Luke. 10-2, I think, is an attainable mark, and I can foresee us doing that. If we catch a couple breaks along the season, 11-1, don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. On the same side of that, though, a couple bad breaks, and I can see us going 9-3.
A couple bad breaks, and we're still 9-3, which I mean, it would suck, but still a pretty good season.
Yeah.
All right.
We're pretty high on the team this year.
Very
at
high.
The tailgate report.
Grew up in the 70s on this show. Coming up a little high. All right, so one last thing we'll pump out here quick is so a lot of news here, a lot of bad news for the Hawkeye offensive line in the last couple of weeks. Alaric Jackson and Tristan Wirfs, both suspended for Week 1 against Northern Illinois. You worried at all, boys?
It's a bad look for the brand.
Those are two big dudes. I'm talking about mass.
He's talking about 320 and 315. So
those are some big mamma jammas there. But they're huge parts of the team. But it's the first game of the season. It's Northern Illinois. Who knows? Maybe someone will have a coming out party that game.
Well, I mean, you look at our second stringers. I was looking at the depth chart before. You got 282, 280, 305, and 312. So we don't lose a lot there. Let me just drop these out quick. I got Northern Illinois' top 2 on the depth chart for the defensive line.
All right.
We got some dude by the name of Josh Corcoran, and he weighs 250.
Nailed it.
Thanks. Ben Leroy, 280. Weston Kramer, 280. And the second strings now, Quentin Wine, 237. Kind of embarrassing. Jack Heflin, 296, and Devin Webster, 300. So it's not like they're coming back with overpowering in size linemen.
Right, and what you would expect out of a program that isn't Power 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not a Wisconsin D-line out there or an Ohio State D-line. They get what they can get, and I'm sure they're happy with that, but it's what you'd expect out of a program like theirs.
Yeah. All right. So no worries really other than...
No.
Well, I tell you, I have one huge worry. Knock on wood, cross my fingers, grab every lucky charm that you have around. My one worry for the season is, God forbid Nate Stanley goes down. Our quarterback depth after that is 100% untested. We got redshirt freshman Peyton Mansell and true freshman Spencer Petras. And
Petras was kind of a high recruit, but still, freshman coming in, yeah, that's tough. All right.
My biggest concern for the season is if the scoreboards in the north end zone will be working.
Oh boy, that's
they have the frames up. I'm just hoping. I mean, it seems like a lot of work to get done, but
I don't
in
think
17 days. But
if you haven't seen the new stadium, folks,
sweet.
If you haven't seen the new improvements to the stadium, it's kind of going to blow your mind a little bit. It looks very, very... It looks like a professional stadium almost over there in the north end zone.
Half of it, yeah.
It's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Borat.
All right.
That was Borat.
And that was Borat by Austin Myers. All right, guys, go follow the show on Twitter. That's all we got for you this week. Just one last thing here. Kirk, never run the naked bootleg again. Thanks for listening, guys. Tune into our next episode. I'm not sure when it will be. We'll try to squeeze in another here before the season starts. But thanks for listening. As always, go Hawks.